This article you read, and we're going to homework at lunchtime, and you will discuss it after lunch. But not that you need to, and of course you got the Schwarzfucker article already we're going to talk about. To dispel some of the ludicrous myths about high-performance people. What was the... Hector, what did he say when he looked up on the fucking window? What did he say, Hector? Were you awake?
And he said,
think quick!
Yes, they will.
Of course they will.
Yeah, of course they will.
Of course they will what? Jack off on the computer? What?
Loan up the money.
Lend up the money, fund it.
Want to pay it back.
They knew they were.
Everybody knew they wouldn't. Everybody knew they wouldn't lend the money out. The whole stimulus program, not the whole, but a good part of the stimulus program is based on they get the money in the economy, so they lend it out to little dipshits like you, and that hasn't worked. That part of it just hasn't flat-ass worked. Now, for many, it's harder, especially for people that are just starting businesses, etc. So what was some of the takeaways about Too Big to Fail? Pardon?
It was like it should have been survival of the fittest.
Well, that's what I think. That's what capitalism is all about. But I mean, what when you saw the bankers squirreling around when they cut the dick off the guy that ran Lehman, and how he tried to keep the thing alive, which is what you do, and some of your businesses are classic examples of that. You know, somebody should have put a bullet on your fucking head years ago. But I mean,
It didn't seem like they had a lot of control, like realistically.
The government forced them. Okay, which isn't the way it's supposed to work. In case in a democracy, in case you guys missed that, it's not fucking Russia. Sorry, Mr. Putin, but it's not fucking Russia. What else?
That the best people in the world who should be the best experts couldn't handle the things. Yeah.
Okay, because the heretofore the dots that they had connected weren't these dots. And no matter how many guys, PhDs, and how many economists, etc., that they had, they weren't prepared for that. They just fucking weren't prepared for that. And you won't be prepared either. Yes, Hector.
No, I was just saying.
Shakir, why are you always looking like you're running? You just stole something at a bank or something. I mean, you dress like a pig. I mean, what the fuck? But anyway, yeah, I mean, I know some of the people that were directly involved in that, and it was worse than that. But it was worse. But they cleaned it up because guys, regular guys don't want to know that that's how fucked up things were. Now, if they had let everything go down, there's a lot of conjecture, what would have happened to the world. I personally am one of the guys that thinks they should let it all go down and in survival of the fittest. But I happen to be in the minority. I mean, if you worked at those big institutions, you were glad you were saved. But then they say, well, then how come they didn't save Lehman, or how come they didn't do this? And they saved the rest. But nobody's going to save you. The uptake, I want you to, in addition to what you saw, nobody's going to step in and do that for you. Some of you, have gone to the SBA, etc. But I mean, nobody's going to do that for you. And so, in that regard, like we already know, for those of us that are past 10 years old, the world's not fair. And the financial world is even. If there's any fairness in the world, if there's any Mother Teresa's, Dalai Lamas running around, it's certainly not fair in the financial world. Or it's less fair, I should say, because it's not fair anyway. When I was trying to pick out all my suits today to wear, and I'm going down, well, I wore that one back in 2011. No, you didn't. And so I put this one on. This used to be one of my favorite suits in the late 80s. That's when I had it made. And but basically, like women, there's only 10, 12, 15 I wear. And all the 180 something, I look at them, and I got them in so many different places in the castle because you can't get them all in wardrobes. And I'm too lazy to go down to the other end of the castle to look in the wardrobe. So, and then the housekeeper's amazed now. Well, he only wears these anyway, so we'll put these right in front of his nose. And maybe he's getting older and he shouldn't have to walk all the way down there. Somebody asked me yesterday where to get suits made, and so I'm just going to spend 2 minutes on this. I get them Savile Road, London. Remember, dress British and think Yiddish, as Mr. Grazos told me, 30 plus years ago. But you can have, good suits made. I'm told other places. I've never done that. And the difference between tailor-made and bespoke. Bespoke is hand-stitched. Tailor-made is normally with a machine, still made for your measurements. And bespoke suits, and even tailor-made suits, normally you can button the buttons. And one button unbuttoned says it's tailor-made. 2 buttons unbuttoned says, fuck you, you cunt. So normally I have 2 buttons unbuttoned. And when we talked to Jermaine today after lunch, I don't know if his suits are tailor-made or bespoke, but the difference between dreadlocks is pretty dramatic, as will be your results. I was also asked yesterday if having a convicted felon on your payroll, what do you think of that, Dan? My attitude is pretty much across the board. Since most of you aren't sophisticated enough to know if you're getting fucked or not, it's better if you don't have people that have been to jail. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but since most of you, except for Shylock, Dutch Shylock here, who's a experienced litigator, and maybe 1 or 2 others, you won't. So why take the risk? Why take the chance? It's just a lot easier. Although oftentimes guys that have done wrong and rehabilitated themselves, all the guys in prison say that, well, not all, almost all say they're not guilty, and many of them turn to God, and some of them are rehabilitated. Some. But I've had a few that have been rehabilitated, and they've worked out well. And I've told you that I've had convicted felons in this seminar. The jury's still out, pun intended. The jury's still out, whether they're going to work out and they're going to make this work or not. But so that was something. Another thing that came up, which we'll talk after we get off YouTube, about taxes. I'm going to talk about taxes and my experience. Bottom line is people that are a citizen in one country and live in tax-free havens, or where they don't chase you too hard for the taxes, is normally a reason, and that reason is not a good one. So, but I'll get in more detail about that when we're not having the YouTubers listen. How was any other takeaways from the movie?
Yeah, I thought that it also showed at the end that that's the business. They've got money and they need to lend it out. And now they've printed triple the amount they had back then. There's just a lot more money to go out and
So now, if you think about it, and this is not an economics class, they saved the banks, they restructured debt, etc. And they were hoping that money would go out into the economy in that system, and it didn't. Subsequent to that, they started printing money, and that money, depending on who you talk to, is it going into the economy or is it going just into the financial institutions? And then they're marshaling it out the way they see fit. It's going into financial institutions, and they're marshaling it out. Marshaling means, putting it out the way they see fit. And it's a lot easier to get a $50 million loan or $500 million transaction than it is a $500,000. It just is. Up in this part of the world, I mean, it's very difficult to buy a first house. In fact, they say it's impossible. Well, nothing's impossible, but I mean, it's very difficult to get a line of credit, or they call it overdraft here, for a small business or a startup. And they want all those things I told you not to provide, business plans and all this bullshit, to get, just, a minimum amount of money. I'm told it's not dissimilar in the Netherlands. It's not dissimilar in many other countries around the world. Because unless you're getting money from the International Monetary Fund, etc., and I've told you we're going to talk today. And the reason why today's the only day we spend on, your war action plan, growth, working capital, finance, which is internal growth, which means organic growth, and acquisitions, which is what the model's about, is because there's not a lot to say. It's simple. It's dead. If you thought the other part of the program was not the emotional part, if you thought the other steps are simple, this is dead fucking simple. Doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it, but the actual steps, you go this, and you ask for this, and you show them this, but it is simple. There's not a lot of material, and so that's why we only spend one day on it, because all the rest of the stuff that we've pounded ad nauseum is the really important stuff, the stuff that like Aria has talked about quite effectively yesterday. Any more thought? And I'm sure that your little pea brains, a bunch of you stayed up late again last night, drinking Macallan and whatever else you drink. This group has gone through, I believe, twice as much water as any other summoner. Twice as much. I think they told me 300. I can't believe 300 big fuck. I don't believe that. But you're always getting up to pee. You got no bladders. But I understand. And I don't pee. During the seminar, because I've told myself it's unprofessional to have to break for pee. 15, 20 years ago. But when I pee during a break, it's like a fucking it's like a fucking racehorse I could put out a fire. And when you get older, your ability to pee reduces, because your prostate squeezes up against this. So the fact that I can put out a fire, but we've also consumed more liquor. Hard liquor, which is reminiscent of the old days in the 90s when they did. But I can't remember anybody ever drinking. I don't remember water being on the tables in the old days. I don't remember that. I'm sure we must have had water. And now we have a bottle for each one, right? Yeah. Before we'd have one bottle at that table, I'm not sure if that means anything. Okay, but I am sure that some of you will Google fuck it, and you'll find out as having more. I know water is good for your brain. I know that. So, and maybe some of you will say, oh, maybe that's because we're assimilating all this information so well. And you'll bullshit yourselves. And I hope that's true. But I'll know in the first weekly report how fucking well you assimilated the information. And, YouTubers, thank you. It's been a great week. We'll talk to you after lunch.